What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be checking out the Transformers Hot Wheels Deluxe Class Twin Mill and Bone Shaker. Based on the iconic vehicles made by Mattel, this is a crossover that has been a long time coming, especially as the main reason for the Studio Series Dino having to use an unlicensed vehicle was due to Mattel originally stating that they would never work with Hasbro, and I've got to say that in some ways I am glad this partnership did take so long. The original crossover line, released in the early 2000s, unfortunately really wasn't the best, with the more recent line being a marked improvement. Take Agent Knight for example. Despite transforming into the iconic 1982 Pontiac Trans Am, his robot mode honestly doesn't fare too badly stacked up alongside the Masterpiece line. And with the previous crossovers with Mattel having been extremely overpriced exclusives, I actually began to have high hopes for how these guys would turn out. First up is Twin Mill, who does transform into a vehicle that first appeared in the original 1969 lineup. It's easily one of the most distinctive vehicles, with its sharp narrowed front and exposed twin engines. The paintwork is also surprisingly close for a Hasbro release, with the difference between the painted windshield and moulded plastic being, to be fair, pretty minimal, with my only minor complaint really being the back. In comparison to the rest of the vehicle, this is the one area which I don't think looks quite as good. Which leads us on to Bone Shaker, who I would argue is not only visually more interesting, but also the better between the two. Easily one of the most impressive parts from a design standpoint would have to be the interior detail. Despite only being a deluxe class, even this is accurate to the miniature version. It's also got to be mentioned how well painted this guy is. From the front especially, the skull is completely painted, which I guess is an attempt to replicate the die-cast look of the original. Even the wheels are fully pinned into place, giving them the ability to not only glide back and forth, but to also ram through their enemies. And flying through some vehicle mode comparisons, first up is the Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime, Leader Class Megatron, Deluxe Class Devastation Optimus Prime, then finally the 86 movie Bumblebee. Blasting through the accessories, Twin Mill includes 2 detachable engines, then a pair of blast effects, and as for Bone Shaker, 1 gear shifter. The blast effects, whilst look decent, honestly I would recommend to leave off. They are nowhere near as flexible in comparison to some of the previous versions, and will more than likely just scratch off the paint. The engines can also double as the blasters for the robot mode, meaning that he doesn't completely stay in one piece for the transformation. As for Bone Shaker, unfortunately his accessory is a bit of a letdown. It's just comically too big for the vehicle mode, and then sadly too small for the robot mode. Racing our way through their transformations, I've got to say that for 2 crossovers, the engineering is surprisingly incredibly unique. So for the first step, take Twin Mill and rotate the intakes. You'll then pop off the engines. We can now detach the windshield, spin it around, with this section folding down. With that complete, split the back half of the vehicle, extend the legs, then split these directly down the middle. The feet can now hinge up, rotate around to allow clearance for the heel spurs. With that complete, snap this panel into place, rotate at the waist, then split at the top half. You'll now take the shoulders and spin these around, with the forearms folding down and the biceps around. With the hands doing the same, you'll then take the head and rotate it to the front. Then finally for Twin Mill, snap the chest plate into place. For this guy's first step, detach the back bumper to allow the legs to slide up. You'll then take the seats and slide these back, with these panels following to match. We can now take this section and fold it forward, with this panel snapping back. You'll then split the legs directly down the middle, as what you'll now do is fold these panels up, then slide them to the back. We can now fold out the arms, extend the elbows, slide out the hands, rotate at the bicep, then slide forward. You'll now take the skull and pop this open to allow this section to slide down and the shoulders to fold around. With that complete, snap the chest plate into place, spin the head around, slide these panels back, then finally bring these down, and that is the transformation now fully complete. Drifting their way through the battlefield, here are Twin Mill and Bone Shaker now fully transformed into their robot modes. Both 2 completely original designs that have really allowed Hasbro to make the most of their vehicle modes. And I've got to say that in 2025, I think it's great that Hasbro are finally starting to delve into something slightly more unique. Take the Timeline 2-packs for example. Those are great reimaginings of arguably some of the most iconic characters, and with these 2 only having appeared as vehicles, unlike some of the previous crossovers, it's really allowed them to make their robot modes equally as impressive for the most part. Twin Mill has an incredibly sleek design, with him appearing tall and slim, much like his vehicle mode. I also really like the use of the Allspark Blue, with the level of detailing mostly staying consistent with what we're used to seeing from Age of the Primes. Even as we spin him around to the back, this guy is ridiculously clean. With that being said, there are two things from a design standpoint which I don't think work quite as well. The first being the official transformation for the forearms. Not only does this limit the articulation, but the visible gaps don't look the best. Instead, I prefer to flip these around, as visually it doesn't just look better, but also allows for a much greater range. As for the second issue, the inside of the legs look rough. Honestly, this reminds me of something from Combiner Wars, and I think could have looked much better had this back section been able to fold in. As for some comparisons, here is how he stacks up against the Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime, Leader Class Megatron, Deluxe Class Devastation Optimus Prime, then finally the 86 movie Bumblebee. As for Bone Shaker, this guy looks incredible. He's far more substantial in hand and honestly appears to almost take some inspiration from the design of G2 Sizzle. Despite officially being marketed as an Autobot, this guy looks far more like a Decepticon, with the head sculpt and chest plate appearing to be incredibly formidable. As we spin him around to the back, again, much like Twin Mill, I think they've done an amazing job in really cleaning him up. There is barely any kibble, and for the most part, next to no hollow joints. The only part of the design which I don't think works particularly well would be the ankles. Unfortunately, the front part of the foot is fixed into place, meaning that from certain angles, they do begin to look kind of unsightly. With that being said, in comparison to the previous crossovers, these two are incredibly promising. Despite their faults, they are both mostly solid, with the robot modes in particular being surprisingly good. Even though they are officially licensed, neither is really compromised, something that unfortunately cannot be said for the previous releases. As we fire through some robot mode comparisons for Bone Shaker, first up is the Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime, Leader Class Megatron, Deluxe Class Devastation Optimus Prime, then of course the 86 movie Bumblebee. Diving into their articulation, another benefit of having this crossover released in 2025 is that they are just as articulated as what you would expect from a mainline deluxe. So to begin with, the head is on a ball joint. This can look up, down, tilt side to side, and rotate left to right. The shoulders can kick forwards, backwards, and completely out to the side. The biceps can spin, with the elbows able to bend. In the case of Twin Mill, the hands can rotate, with their waists able to spin. The hips can kick forwards, backwards, and completely out to the side. Their thighs can spin, with the knees able to bend, and in the case of Bone Shaker, way past 90. Then finally, the ankles can tilt. So, both equally as articulated, with Bone Shaker maybe being slightly more dynamic. But to really see their true speed, let's now put them through the pose test. So, wrapping up on this review for the Transformers Hot Wheels Deluxe Class, Twin Mill and Bone Shaker. As mentioned previously, for two of the first crossovers with Mattel, I think we are off to a great start. Their vehicle modes look fantastic, and I would argue were great picks to kick this line off with. Despite Twin Mill being extremely close to his original vehicle, I would say that Bone Shaker is easily the better between the two. His design honestly reminds me of something released during the Revenge of the Fallen era of Transformers. Even both their robot modes are for the most part really well designed, with only a few minor issues that honestly you would expect from most mainline figures. I also don't think the pricing is too bad on these guys, with them only retailing for about $7 more in comparison to a regular deluxe heading into 2026. But I would love to get your thoughts. Be sure to sound off below and let me know. As always, I thank you all so much for watching, and until my next video, I'll see you then. Transform and roll out!